Repair Room, USA.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Richard with Repair Room USA, and today we are going to be modifying a pair of tweezers to make them so we can take off ICs that are not underfilled. Underfill is that material that is in between some of the chips. It's basically almost like a type of glue, and they're soldered down. But we're going to be using this tool to remove other chips that have no underfill. I'm going to show you real quick on how to tell whether they have underfill or not. So here we have these tweezers right here. We're going to be getting these tweezers, and we're going to be folding these tips in so that they're going towards the inside. All right, and the only way to do that is you get some pliers, and we have to carefully get the tips, and we're just going to, you don't want to do too much of a tips, and we're just sort of grabbing them and folding them in. And then what you're looking for is you're looking for something kind of like this, something to be able to hug them and grab them. So let me show you an example. This is an example of a chip that does not have any underfill in it. And if you look at it, the way to tell it has no underfill is when you're looking at, you can see the little tiny traces that are going into the phone around the components. This chip has no underfill. So the purpose of this is so that we can actually get underneath of the chip and lift it off the board when we're going to be removing it. We're going to be doing the lift and heat method is what we're doing today. And this is the safest way to not overheat a chip when you're actually removing it, IC chip, when you're removing it from the board. And that's the biggest problem that people have, is that they tend to overheat the chip. So what you want to do is you want to grab it, or find a good position for it that you can grab it comfortably and lift it off the board. Now, since my heat is going to be going from left to right, I'm going to be pointing away from some of these components. So I want to kind of grab it on this side if I can, and then I just want to lift it up a little bit, and then allow the weight of the actual motherboard to cause it to come off. And then when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that I hold my fingers far enough away to where it won't get really hot. All right. Now, let's see here if I can grab it. All right, I think I can get a good hold of it like this. Right there. I think that's a good way to hold it. I'm going to set my heat. Now, what was normal temperature? 360. So let's set 360. Airflow 60. That's my normal operating temperature. I want to add a little bit of flux. You don't have to, but you can. Just around the chip. I'm going to grab it. I should have made the little ends just a little bit smaller on the tips, but I can fix that. All right. And bam, chip is off. Now, did you see the time that took? Ooh, that's hot. That didn't take a lot of time. And what you're looking for when you're removing these is you're trying to see that, make sure that these are actually flat. If they're flat while you remove them, that means you actually did a really good job. Let's look at the actual chip itself. Right here. So there's the chip. And it looks like we did a good job here. And that's how you correctly remove a chip. Now, if you think that these tips, they're not exactly right, then you can always straighten them back out. Alright, and get them relatively straight. And what I want to do is I want to bend more of just the tiny little tips in. I just kind of want the tips to go in. I don't want too much. And then I want to actually hold this down somehow. So let me get a bolt holder. Let's hold it down. Get more comfortable. And I'm basically just trying to get these little corners, because you don't want really high spots in here. And just, you know, kind of knock them down a little bit. Just tapping in there, kind of getting the corners off. I'm just kind of tapping in there. You got to be careful because sometimes these metal threads get stuck in here. So the best way to do that is to actually fold this in, and then you should use it folded like this. And that way you can make sure all these are nice and flat. Alright. Alright. And we're looking sure these are all flat. Okay. What I was doing is I was trying to bring everything down to the middle. And then I can just go in here and there. Make sure you touch it. This is good to the touch. I mean, you can put alcohol on it. dirt right there. I don't know what that is in the little groove. So let's get my little spatula. That is a bunch of alright. Good enough. Nothing is obstructing the sides. Alright. Area is prepared. But that's how you prepare, that's how you remove ICs and prepare them. You have to get your tweezers. You bend them in, and then that'll allow you to be able to hug the chip and then actually lift it from the board while you're removing it. Let's try it again, just to go over it one more time. No underfill. I mean, you can grab the chip like that. Since I'm blowing left to right, you want to be able to hold it, lift it, IC is removed. Ooh, hot. You combine it, you put some flux on it. Alright, you combine it with your 180, 183. And is this too big for that? Probably not. I think it'll work. Basically, I'm just running that little bead. I am mixing it with the leaded solder that's already on there. And I'm just kind of running this bead over it so I can reduce the temperature and mix it with the leaded, unleaded with the leaded. The stuff I'm using is 183. The stuff that comes from the factory is 220. So we're basically bringing in a happy medium temperature. To try to reduce what's on there right now. And I'm not really touching the board. I'm just kind of going over it lightly. Pull as much as I can off these little tips so I can go in with my braid. And I can just kind of clean that off Now that I reduce the temperature and just knock off those little tips. The least you touch it, the better. I'm just kind of going over and picking up some of this extra solder on the balls, just lightly going over it. And then making sure my iron is clean and there's lots of flux on here. You got to make sure there's no high spots. And there's nothing going to be in the way of that chip going back down there. Like that. This guy right here pulled off the board just a little bit, but he's still hanging on there. It looks like he's connected to this one right there. So let's clean this off. Now, how would you fix that? Well, first you need to find out if he is important enough to actually need a fix. So you would have to go to ZXW. There's a few ways you can actually fix them. There's a little hot spot right here. There you go. What you could do is you could put some solder mask around them. Or you could just leave them like that. And then when you put the chip back on the board, he should be fine. Now I see some high spots right here. Right here. I see a high spot right in there. Everything else looks okay. And a little bit of a high spot there. Not much, but enough to where I could just go in there with my iron and just lightly kind of brush them off, kind of clean them off. That one too. Like that. Just kind of lightly going in there and just kind of tapping, and just kind of knocking them down just a little bit. Just like that. Same thing with the IC. You put them in this little chip holder. Like that. I use 310 for these ICs. You don't want to use too much. And you're basically doing the same thing. You're using a lot of flux And you're going to be going with your iron, and you just kind of be easily just knocking these tips off. Just lightly knocking these tips down. Just easily going over and just knocking these tips down. Like that. If you want to do them one by one, you can. Just knocking the tips down flat like that. You want to get them flat. So you're just going over each individual one while I turn. And I'm just trying to, as easily as I can, just trying to knock, 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 and get them flat. Best way to do is start from the middle and then work your way out. And then once you get to the outer ones, it's just easy to go off the board as you knock them clean. So as long as you get the middle ones, then you're just left with the exterior ones at the end. And you don't have to get it all off. You're just trying to get them as flat as you can. And then that way, when you reball, like that, if you look at them from the side, grab your chip. When you look at it from the side, it is mostly flat. And you make sure he's nice and clean all over. On the sides. On the back. Just make sure he's nice and clean. Like that. Get him ready for reball. And now we gotta find which reball is he. Let's see, he looks like a square chip. How about this one? Does that look right? Oh, that's perfect. Alright, so we're going to use this stencil right here. So what we need is some kind of cloth or paper napkin or anything that you want to use. Cloth. Like that. Get our stencil. And that's the stencil that we're going to use right here. Alright, you're going to want to use you're leaded. You're 183. So I got two. I got 143 and I got 183. If I can find the 183. Here it is, right here. And you want it to be as dry as possible without being too dry. So let's use some of this stuff right here. We don't need a lot. We just need a tiny little bit. That's probably too much right here. And what we're going to do is when we do this, we're going to want to have our fingers ready and the actual tweezers that we're going to use to be able to hold him down, because once we hold him down, and we have to have our air ready. Now the air that we're going to use is going to be 330. 330-40. Our normal temperature is 360, but you don't need 360 heat on this. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either hold it down or you can try to tape it to the back. I just like to hold it down like that. I'm going to hold it with two fingers, and then I'm going to get the paste, and I'm going to paste it, and okay, and then I need to remove as much of the excess as I can. All right. And I haven't not let go yet. And then I get my tweezers, I hold it down, and I make sure when I'm holding it down that I put my hand as far away as I can from where the heat's going to be. And I bring the heat in gradually from the top. Well, the tweezers kind of went in there. So let me clean that off a little bit. I want to hold this steady right there and bring in the heat. But I'm not really using direct heat. I'm kind of heating up the stencil, and I want to heat these up as slow as possible. All right. Hold, 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 hold. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now this is my opportunity to make sure that everything looks okay. So everything looks like it's fine. So you grab and you poke. Out your chip, and then you have to do it one more time. There's plenty of flux on there right now, so you want to hold your chip, okay, bring in the heat one more time, make sure you got the sucker, and then you're just kind of, you want to make them all shiny again. The trick is to make them all shiny. Shiny, 1, 2, 3. All right. And that's how you make a perfect reball. You want to look at it to the side. You're trying to see if you're making sure that none of these balls are bigger than the other ones. Okay. And then they all look pretty good. And then that's how you do the reball. Alright. There's one of those with a lot of chips on there. Oh, shit. I forgot where he went. It's not him. It's not him. It's gotta be this guy. I think it was right there. Okay. So that's where he goes. Are you sure that's him? He looks staggered. That does not look like him. That looks more like him. There he is. That's where he went. Alright, so he is going back on here. But, do you remember where the number 1 chip is? I don't. So we're going to have to open up ZXW. And let's see. Yes. And then where is he? Oh, then this one. Oh, it's this one. He is on this side of the board. I think it's that one. Okay, so you're going to need to open ZXW. Alright, and if you look at ZXW, this is the board right here. It's going to the right, and this is the chip that we removed. And he is, if you hold him like this, the bottom a corner chip is going to be right here. So that is your number 1. So that's where your corner is going to go. So we need to put the chip with the corner going down towards this edge. So this is the way that you go. There's the dot. I don't know if you can see it or not. And then I need to make sure that my chip is lined up correct. And the only way to do that if you look, these dots, oh shoot, these dots so the chip is basically going to sit just like this over these dots. So that's the placement. There's your dots. That's where your chip's going to sit. Except the corner is on this side. So this corner's got to go right here. And you gotta get them sort of aligned. And then the chip will do the rest. Alright, so but what are we forgetting here? We're forgetting some flux. I'm just trying to see how the chip is going to sit. It's going to sit like this. Because these dots are going to go right there. So let's put a little bit of flux. You don't want a lot. You want actually very little. Like that. And then I want to get my blow dryer heat. And I want to spread out this flux so that it will spread out nice and thin. So I'm using 200. And I'm just trying to spread and move this flux around. Get it nice and thin. Alright. Now remember, the corner of the chip, that corner, it has to go on this side. So the chip is going to go down like this. Alright. That looks good. The position looks about right. Alright. Now I want to bring in my heat slowly from the side. We're going to be going 360, 50. Just a little bit lower wind speed. And basically I'm going to be going in very slow with my heat. Gradually bring it in. And what I'm looking for is some pulsing. You see how it moved? It totally locked right back in place. You see it pulsing? Once it starts pulsing, you give it a good 5 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. You see how much that chip moved? And that's how you take off and you reball ICs back into place. This is important. This is something that you have to practice, that you have to get good at if you plan to work on iPhones. Hope you learned something today. Check me out. Subscribe if you can. It'll really help the channel out so more people can actually see this. What I'm trying to do is we need more technicians in the US that are actually teaching other people to do these jobs inside the US, and hopefully I can inspire somebody to actually want to learn and broaden their horizons and their technical know-how, because this is important to learn how to do. Thank you. You guys have a great day.